which specific Republicans leaders do you believe you can work with to pass a CR and reopen the government?
Look, that's a great question, Logan. And let me tell you, I can, mention a number of them.
My bad. Last night, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez held a town hall on CNN, and you're about to watch Sanders give an answer that would have been inconceivable just a few months ago, so let's watch.
In American society, we believe in democracy. You're a conservative Republican, we disagree, so what? It's called America. We have different points of view. I gotta tell you though, if I may, one of the things that has concerned me very, very much, and is that we are seeing the Republican Party doing less of representing their districts and their states than just swearing allegiance to the President of the United States. Now, I never thought that I would say this, but you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, you know what? I was elected by my constituents. That's who I am beholden to, not the President of the United States. So there are good Republicans out there, and if Trump would leave them alone for 5 minutes and not threaten them with a primary, if they stood up and did the right thing, I think we can make progress.
So just to clarify, he is identifying Marjorie Taylor Greene as one of the good Republicans. We'll discuss that obviously more later. But Caitlin Collins then asked AOC if she would consider working with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And a few months ago, AOC seemed very opposed to that whole idea. But over the summer, she did not sign on to Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment to cut $500 million in missile defense funding for Israel. In a post explaining her reasoning, AOC wrote, "If you believe neo-Nazis are welcome and operating in good faith, you can have them." But now AOC sounds a little bit different. Let's watch.
You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's your colleague over in the House. The way she frames this is she says Democrats created this mess, but Republicans don't have any solutions to fix the healthcare issue either. Is she someone that you could see yourself working with?
On what?
On the healthcare.
I mean, listen, I think people can talk a good game, but until they actually support policy that helps people, I'm not particularly interested. But if she actually wants to support legislation and expanding healthcare, I've worked with plenty of Republicans as well on healthcare, but it's not just about talking the talk. We got to walk the walk.
And you would need to see her actually support something that you're behind in terms of legislation on healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's fair. So how does Marjorie Taylor Greene feel about the idea of partnering with a Democrat, let alone a progressive Democrat? Well, today Greene wrote a post that seemed to be directed at any Democrat who has found themselves agreeing with her lately, or maybe even wanting to work with her. She wrote, "No, I do not support the ACA/Obamacare. It has made health insurance totally unaffordable and overregulated doctors. And no, I do not support healthcare for all. We are $37 trillion in debt, and I will never support the government controlling your healthcare. Remember COVID lockdowns and masks and vaccine mandates, government taking away access to life-saving ivermectin, not doing anything like that ever again." There she is, good old Marjorie Taylor Greene. "No, I do not support illegal immigration or illegal labor. I want secure borders like what we have now, and I want the drug and human trafficking billion-dollar cartel industry out of America. No, I am not pro-abortion. I love babies, all of them. I think they are a gift from God. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Have a nice day." Why do they always have to end like that? I hate it. I don't get it. I don't know why Trump just says it all the time now. Like that's like his new thing that he decided to just bring in to the second presidency term for him. So that is interesting. John and I did talk about this a little bit on the damage report earlier. And what I was saying is, basically the United States is kind of at a pivot point, or we're kind of teetering on the edge of something. And it seems as though Donald Trump is not going to be with us for much longer. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that's gonna happen. I don't know what much longer means. I obviously don't know any more than anybody else on this front. But the Republican Party does seem to have to figure out very quickly who they are and what they are without Donald Trump at the helm. Donald Trump has been at the head of the Republican Party now for 10 years, and not just been at the head of it. He has completely reshaped the Republican Party. The Republican Party of today is very, very different from the Republican Party of 10 years ago. Not that I was a huge fan of it back then, but today it is unrecognizable. And a lot of our Congress people who are sitting in either the House or the Senate, they have completely aligned themselves with Donald Trump, and they identify as MAGA Republicans. And I would say, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been one of the forefront figures of that movement for a long time. It's only been recently, like very, very recently, that she has started to speak out against some of the things that Trump is doing and the way he is doing things. So now, there is some distrust from people on the left because it's like, okay, well, she's saying some things that are starting to make sense. Am I tripping? Like, is she genuine? Does she mean what she's saying? Does she believe what she's saying? And is this indicative of a pattern going forward? And Marjorie has come out and said definitively, no, I'm still who I've always been. But she is going to have to figure out who she is going forward, because without Donald Trump, does Marjorie Taylor Greene even have much of a career anymore as a congressperson? What are your thoughts there, Brett?
So good politics, it's being played well when the intentions of your adversary or the signaling of the adversary doesn't matter, where you don't have to trust them or not trust them. Like, if you can get them to vote for your bill, you don't need to trust them on literally anything else. And the thing about healthcare in this situation, you have to ask yourself, and this is kind of an experiment that TYT's kind of led on, which is, let's see what we can do to maybe get some of these people to join our side, and to do that is to say, all right, what are things that you like, that you really are passionate about? Abortion and healthcare and the cost of living. Our job is to be like, what do I have to put in this hand so you forget about that hand? That's politics. The Republican Party generally has had a trajectory where they know that they lose on the social safety net. People are supportive of that. They know that they lose holistically on the concept of abortion, but they do want to get a bunch of people together into a tent. So they go, oh, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people who represent working class poor people, theoretically. I don't really know that much about her part of Georgia, but like the represent working class people. The Republicans are like, can I get these folks to be more passionate about abortion than they are about their own pocketbooks? And that's the fight we're in right now. That's the fight. And in the meantime, politically speaking, just pointing out the rift in the Republican Party is important, is necessary to say, listen, you guys are in chaos right now. She's talking trash about the Speaker of the House, saying that he basically hates women. All right, these guys are still probably going to vote on a national level about abortion, but this right now, the next vote is a healthcare vote. It's an ongoing funding of the government for what? Not to put ACA or Obamacare in there. She's like, I don't support the ACA or Obamacare. I don't support healthcare for all. Well, we're not asking her to support those things. We need politically to make her discourse in the public sphere about, do you want to take healthcare away from a bunch of poor people in your constituency, or do you want to make it so that they can afford to live and go to the doctor? Because it seems like right now the Democrats have done a good job of saying this government shutdown is about the Republicans wanting to take healthcare away from millions and millions and millions of people, while they're throwing billions of dollars at like Sideburns boy down in Argentina so he could throw a concert. Yeah. Like, meanwhile, and I have a video, Yaz and I do Rebel HQ. Everybody subscribe at youtube.com/RebelHQ. Give us a follow on Facebook. Like, I have a video coming out this week about all of the different fronts she has opened up in the fight against Trump. And we go through them one by one and see what the fallout is, as Trump seems to be at least losing his bond with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and doing so as she says this stuff on the platform of people he's also lost contact with. Tim Dillon, those folks that are not afraid to call him out, exposing that like these tigers are going tiger. They're comedians. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's doing kind of a similar thing here, and it needs to be pointed out for a whole bunch of reasons. One, the most important of which is making sure people get health care and the government can get funded, and the tactical one being let's cause some chaos in the Republican Party.
Yeah, and absolutely. And like, let's not get too ahead of ourselves with anything. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't just gonna like hop on over to like become a progressive Democrat and like have any kind of alliance or even just like see things from our perspective anytime soon. She's still very much who she is. But it is interesting to see these MAGA Republicans finally starting to just say things in opposition to Donald Trump, because we have not seen that in a very, very long time, especially not from the likes of somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was a strong coalition within the Republican Party that was just loyal to Donald Trump to a fault. And Bernie, he actually alluded to this in that clip that we showed you, but there have been Republicans in the past who have spoken out against Donald Trump, and they were primaried and they lost their primaries, right? I think the most obvious example that I can think of right now is Liz Cheney. She lost her seat in Congress. So that's kind of the risk that these people are taking. And of course, the midterms are coming up. So that is going to temper the way that these politicians are speaking right now. So
I do want to get one last thing in there, addressing what AOC said about being able to work with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Marjorie Taylor Greene's from Georgia. A lot of my political science studies and emphasis was on realignment politics in the South, and there were a lot of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Democratic Party until 2004. 2004. They had Democratic governors in Georgia till 2004. Now, a lot of them left for the reasons you probably think they left, which is the governor decided to not eliminate, but shrink the size of the Confederate flag on the Georgia state flag, and it was a whole big thing. But there is a history of people figuring out a way to work with this stuff and pull these terrible, horrible, no good, very bad people on some issues back into the Democratic Party and vote along with their economic interests rather than their like evangelical ones.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I wonder if people remember what politics was like in 2004, which is like, what, 20 years ago. I was in high school back then. And I live in Texas, is a deep red state, but it wasn't in 2004. It was a red state, but just barely. Before that, we had a Democratic governor here. And a lot of what we've been seeing with these like deeply entrenched states and these deeply entrenched politics, a lot of that is a manifestation of the past couple of decades, and specifically the last decade. These very, very partisan politics. This is all, somewhat new, right? There was always disagreement. There was always people on two sides of things. People always had different opinions. But this type of what we're seeing, this partisanship in this country, I'm over it. Like, I'm done with whatever this is. I'm sorry if I'm contributing to it, but it's a lot.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.